Hi there, and welcome into Real Conversations, a film podcast that seeks to explore the history of the Reel to Reel International Film Festival, presented by the Cleveland County Arts Council. My name is Ashley Luckadoo, and this year, Reel to Reel is celebrating 25 years. I'm joined today by Marco Greco, and we're going to talk about their work on the film Clocked Out, which is also an official selection of Reel to Reel 2024. So, to begin with, can you just kind of talk more about how you became a filmmaker and how this project came about?
Well, yeah, so I started off um watching movies with my dad. I remember I watched a bunch of karate movies as a kid, and obviously I wasn't really thinking of directing as a job or even filmmaking in that I could take that as a pathway. But I've always, through elementary school and through middle school and all that, what got me the most satisfaction and the most, happiness was sharing stuff that I made, whether it was comic books on like little pieces of paper or like sharing like stuff that I wrote down. I remember I had to share something to the entire class in elementary school of like a writing a story from a picture book that had no words. And I remember how much, satisfaction that gave to me. And slowly from like I started making films with my friends, like little zombie apocalypse movies and all, like the classic videos that you make,
Oh,
YouTube
yeah.
videos. And eventually my friends called me this label. They said director, and for some reason it like kind of stuck with me. And I started researching more and more into this sort of what that is, and what seeing all these massive, names, Scorsese, Terrence. I'm listing the basics right now, but eventually I started realizing this is what it gives me the most sort of joy and happiness. And I kind of realized that's what I have to do.
I mean, I think, especially with what you mentioned about like, just doing it with your friends when you're just starting out, I think a lot of people can relate to that. Even though some
Yeah,
of the earliest work is also the cringiest work, but we
that's
all had to
very
start somewhere. Yeah, I think everyone at least has done one kind of zombie or apocalypse kind of thing. So I think that you have to check that off as a filmmaker.
have it. You have to.
Oh
It,
yeah.
it's a necessity.
Oh yeah. So with that, tell us about how Clocked Out came to be.
At the beginning of the year, last year, my friend, who's also the writer of this film, Jacob Israel, who I have to really thank so much for he really is what made it shine, in my opinion. He asked me this question at work: do you daydream? Do you find yourself kind of in your head, like maybe you saw this girl that you thought was attractive, or maybe you had a interaction with someone that made you kind of angry, so you started picturing, a full fight in your head. And I started kind of like realizing, because of either boredom or because of, to let the time pass. Yeah, I tend to really do daydream and get stuck in my head. And I worked at a golf course throughout the summer, and I still work there. I did also have a crush as well at the golf course, and imagined what it would be like to ask her out. And um kind of like imagining things as this perfect scenario in my head, where in reality things were obviously a little bit different. Is that slowly this idea of daydreaming at work started to become kind of like a love story. And what the school did to kind of set us off was give us these locations. And once we saw the location that we had, it had this nice looking sort of mailroom setup. And from there, once you have a setting, and once you have kind of like this to me, it was almost like this universal sort of idea that a lot of people do, which is kind of daydreaming. We started kind of like to connect the dots, and we realized that this is a story of a kid who wants to ask this girl out at work. And to me, and this is why I say what Jacob really like really helped, and I owe a lot to him, is the second he said that it was this girl's last day at work, everything set, everything there, the stakes were there, everything just, I was fully hooked in,
Yeah.
and now I've clocked out.
Yeah, I mean, I think with such like it's almost it feels like such a simple complex like an idea, the simple idea of like everyone daydreams, I feel like. So I feel like it like this story is so unique to the fact of how you portrayed that. Because like you have fight scenes and a musical and westerns, like I think it turned out beautiful. And I think you kind of encapsulated every method that you want to do as a film student into this film and did it well. Like the production value, I think, was really high with this film. And I think that you pulled it off for such an ambitious project.
We looked at episodes from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, how they use daydreaming, and how in one episode, and how it switched from animation to an action scene to this to that. And we realized that if we go in this daydream avenue, we it unlocks the ability to kind of cram everything into one. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Almost like we could have an action scene if we wanted. We could have a musical if we want. We could have a scene in black and white, because it doesn't. It's in this person's head. It's what this
No.
person is thinking. And I think it not only is obviously entertaining, but I also think you understand him more. You understand Charlie more, and you understand kind of where he's at and what obviously what he's thinking, I guess.
Yeah. And I definitely feel that when I was watching this. And I actually I did Foley and I was the Foley recordist for it. So it was a lot of fun making all the sounds and the punching noises and stuff. And so I guess with that, how was post-production for you? Because with such an ambitious film, you can go in so many different directions with editorial wise. So how was working with the editor Drake and the sound team, Nicole and I think Evan. How was that process for you?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was phenomenal. Drake, Evan, Nicole, the composers Daniel and Young, we all were able to. First of all, let me just say the places we were working, I just love being in the editing room, the studio, being like the 5.1 speaker system blasting in your face, all that sort of stuff. Like I what I learned in post is what it takes to kind of make a scene more impactful, and what it takes to kind of almost let moments breathe, and how to when to speed things up. Big learning moment for me, seeing how even just a change in, instead of cutting to a over the shoulder, cutting to a wide, how much funnier that could be. Like Drake did a phenomenal job with the edit. I really am so happy with how, especially some scenes in with the boss. I thought he did
Oh,
a phenomenal job.
I love the scenes with the boss. I think that was
Yeah,
probably my favorite moments were with him. That he was
yeah,
such a great actor too. Oh my gosh, you could feel that
yeah.
awkward tension. I
And
loved it.
like Evan and Nicole
hmm
were just able to like really take uh take what we had and like make it so much more.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't have asked for like better people to work with.
Yeah, especially with how creative that they were with this film of like all the sound effects. Like it almost were cartoony at moments, but it works so well with it. So like the
Yeah,
heartbeat, like his heart's beating out of his chest. It works so well. And it was
yeah.
funny. So I think this film is very special where I got to actually see the first cut to, of course, what the final product was. And I think like throughout it, it was great to see how like the post-production team and you have built on it from the beginning, even though the first cut was probably one of the best first cuts I've ever saw of a film. It was pretty strong already, but adding those extra moments and cutting tight or letting things breathe, I think the final product really turned out. How fun was it on set? Was it as fun as it seemed, or were there a lot of tension, of moments of making sure you get all the shots done, or how was that?
I to talk about the set, I need to talk about uh Grant, Abby Perkins, and the producers and Jack, who was the scripty. Grant and his team were like kitchen chef. That's how it felt like we were in a kitchen. Not a single second, especially when we were filming the stuff in reality, all the office scenes, not a single second was wasted. And we were going from the second we were supposed to start shooting to literally the last second before lunch. What I realized most importantly from my mentors and stuff is how is the first AD is your best friend on set.
Oh yeah.
And I just I really do think that Abby was just was I mean was so engaged throughout and was so much fun to kind of work with, and she felt kind of like almost like like the darts in the eyes. I don't know how to explain it.
Oh
She
yeah.
like you felt that everyone was engaged, that everyone was there to make the best product. And I had like I don't want to say like there weren't stressful moments, but those moments of stress were like, as I said, like we were at a Michelin star restaurant trying to get all the orders done, and it's just go, 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 go. And the amount of preparation we had for this film was like nothing I've had experienced before. And they really were like, they really, gave me the chance to rehearse, I guess you could say, and to really
Yeah.
nail down every aspect.
Yeah, so you could focus
And
on directing and, have that creative freedom
yeah,
to not have to worry about everything.
it seemed, and like I said, it seemed like people really enjoyed the set. I really do think that although there was moments of tiredness and stress, like I remember that second day when we were going for lunch, how the feeling of accomplishment, I think that was felt throughout, uh was apparent, was there. My parents brought some soup one day as well, and they all
Oh,
like that as and I think it was also just a fun set to be on in general. There was a musical, there was people in suits and cowboy outfits and this and
oh.
that. I will always remember the set experience.
So since this film has been selected for Reel to Reel, what was your intention for audiences to take away? Was it just that you wanted audiences to experience a good time, or did you want the audience to take away more of a theme from the film, or what was your intention as the director with that, with audience takeaway?
Um, so this film, to me, Charlie falls into many of the patterns that I kind of fall into life. I make a big deal out of everything. I overthink everything, and I make things so much more complicated than they should be. And at the end of the day, it is sometimes just a Tuesday. And what I wanted to share is that capable of much more than you think you are. And although there's negative thoughts and there will be self-doubt that will always be sort of in your head, which I felt was kind of expressed through all the different the ninjas and the sort of the Cowboys and all this sort of stuff, and with the help of others and with motivation through, either you want to ask a girl out or getting advice from someone, push yourself to do much more than you're capable of. That first step comes from within.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Marco, for coming on Real Conversations podcast. You can check out Reel to Reel Film Festival July 24th through the 27th. Tickets are on sale now online or purchase them at the Cleveland County Arts Council in Shelby. Thank you, and we'll catch you later.